It started as a faint signal, so faint most dismissed it as noise. But deep within the James Webb Space Telescope's raw feed, astronomers uncovered a signature that didn't belong. At first, the object was catalogued as just another interstellar comet. But the more Webb stared, the less sense it made. Its light curves pulsed with unnatural precision. Its trajectory bent in ways no ordinary physics could explain. This wasn't a fragment of ice and rock drifting through the void. This was something different, something deliberate, something watching. And the object? 3I/ATLAS, the third interstellar visitor ever detected. But this time, it isn't just passing through. It's leaving behind questions humanity may not be ready to answer. Before we uncover the chilling truth hidden in Webb's latest data, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us bring you deeper into the mysteries of the universe that others are too afraid to explore. When 3I Atlas was first spotted, astronomers assumed it was another interstellar comet. After all, we had seen this before with Oumuamua and Borisov, strange objects from other star systems swinging past our sun and vanishing into the void. But 3 Atlas immediately set itself apart. It wasn't just its trajectory or its velocity that raised eyebrows, it was how it behaved. Unlike typical comets, which develop a visible coma of water vapor and dust when they approach the sun, 3E Atlas stubbornly refused to follow the script. No coma, no tail, no water. Instead, it emitted only carbon dioxide, and in large quantities, while remaining eerily silent in all other spectrographic readings. NASA pointed the powerful infrared spectrometer aboard the SPHEREX observatory at the object, expecting to find confirmation of water or carbon monoxide, two gases almost always present in comets. But the result? Nothing. Just carbon dioxide. No water, no carbon monoxide. A chemical profile never before recorded in the history of space observation. What kind of object emits CO2 exclusively? The answer was unsettling. None that we know of. Not even the strangest comets in our solar system matched this behavior. And if it wasn't acting like a comet, and it wasn't an asteroid, then what was it? As public interest grew, NASA remained unusually silent. But behind closed doors, a more powerful telescope had already been pointed at 3 Atlas. The James Webb Space Telescope, known for its unprecedented resolution and spectrographic detail, was secretly tasked with observing the object on August 6, 2025. No images were released, no press conference followed, just silence. But now, a leaked report from an internal NASA analyst reveals what Webb might have captured. An object with no natural coma, but surrounded by a perfectly symmetrical CO2 halo extending hundreds of thousands of kilometers into space. Even stranger, the infrared signature revealed an unusual brightness, originating not from sunlight reflection, but from within the object itself. Was 3I Atlas emitting artificial light? According to the leaked spectrographic breakdown, the emissions bore similarities to engineered photonic systems, meaning light patterns used in telecommunications or data transmission. The wavelengths weren't random. They were repeating, structured, like a cosmic Morse code. And if that weren't enough, the object was also measured to be 46 kilometers in diameter, far larger than any other known interstellar object, and too large statistically to simply appear randomly. For a rock of that size to enter our solar system from interstellar space would mean one of two things. Either our understanding of the universe is wildly flawed, or this object was sent here on purpose. Perhaps the most terrifying revelation wasn't about the object's size, or its chemistry, or its emissions, it was the path it took. 3 Atlas didn't enter the solar system on some chaotic slingshot course like Oumuamua. It came in perfect alignment with the orbital plane of the planets, a trajectory with only a 1 in 500 chance of occurring naturally. In other words, it flew in like a drone following a flight plan. It passed near multiple planets, including Earth, before heading deeper into the solar system. Avi Loeb, the controversial Harvard astrophysicist who made headlines with his theories about Oumuamua, called the trajectory technologically suggestive. He noted that the object's approach angle was not only precise, but designed to optimize observations from Earth-based and orbital telescopes, almost as if it wanted to be seen, but not fully understood. And remember, this object's origin point traces back to the Sagittarius constellation, the same region of space where the infamous WOW exclamation mark signal was detected in 1977. That signal, to this day, remains one of the most credible pieces of evidence for an artificial transmission from deep space. Now ask yourself, what are the odds that the most enigmatic object ever observed in our solar system comes from the exact same region? As speculation grew, a fresh theory started to take shape. One rooted less in science fiction and more in raw engineering possibility. What if 3I Atlas wasn't a comet or asteroid at all, but a deliberately enhanced construct? Picture this: a massive asteroid carried from some distant star system, carved out from the inside and outfitted with hidden machinery, advanced sensors, or perhaps even an artificial living space. Its dense rocky shell shielding it from cosmic radiation, its thin surface layer engineered to release CO2 vapor and disguise its true nature. To anyone observing from afar, it would look completely natural, unless someone probed deeper. And this isn't a new thought. Scientists here on Earth have already proposed the same idea for interstellar travel, using asteroids as natural shields to create long-haul space arcs. Such vessels could journey for millennia, powered by dormant engines or sophisticated propulsion systems concealed beneath kilometers of rock. And now, the SphereX scans, together with spectral leaks from Webb, hint that this concept might no longer be hypothetical. We may be staring at one in real time. And if this object really is artificial, then the consequences are overwhelming. Someone, or something, built it and sent it here. While most public James Webb data highlights exoplanets, faraway galaxies, and the cosmic background, leaked encrypted logs from insiders at NASA point to something startling buried in the light signatures of 3I Atlas. What was first logged as random heat emissions soon revealed a structured modulation. At first, it looked like nothing more than flickering, an illusion caused by rotation. But deeper spectral breakdowns uncovered repeating pulses aligned with prime number sequences, the very kind SETI scientists have long suggested as a universal mathematical language for first contact. These weren't random, they weren't natural. They pulsed at exact intervals, radiating beacon-like signals across multiple infrared bands. What truly rattled analysts was the silence between bursts. A long pause, like something out there was waiting, listening for a reply. Suddenly, it wasn't just us studying 3I Atlas. It felt as though the object itself was studying us. NASA's reaction was swift. Total lockdown on all data. Observatories were ordered to stop tracking it. No new reports were to be released. Publicly, the story was over. But for those who had seen the signals, there was no going back. Not long after the Webb data leak, a strange spike in satellite redirection requests was logged across NASA and ESA networks. But these weren't routine recalibrations. They were orders routed directly from military defense authorities, most notably NORAD and the U.S. Space Force. Within just 48 hours, the X-37B, America's classified spaceplane, was launched into orbit on an unannounced mission. Its payload was hidden from public record, but orbital analysis pointed to an unusual, highly elliptical path, one that aligned directly with the projected course of 3I Atlas. Why would the U.S. military deploy its most secretive spacecraft over an asteroid? Were they preparing to monitor it or intercept it? Behind closed doors, internal briefings quietly reclassified 3I Atlas under a chilling new label, Technological Unknowns of Extraterrestrial Origin, TUEEOS. These memos weren't intended for public eyes, but once exposed, they confirmed suspicions long whispered. This wasn't merely a scientific puzzle anymore. It was now framed as a matter of defense, a strategic threat, a presence that demanded a response. As scientists dug deeper into the possibility of artificiality, a small but daring group of astrobiologists proposed an even more unsettling theory. What if 3I Atlas wasn't just a technological probe, but something alive? Not in the sense of traditional biology, but as a hybrid system, part machine, part biological organism, capable of evolution and decision-making on interstellar timescales. This concept, known as biomechanical synthesis, has been discussed in fringe research circles for decades. Organisms that use metal frameworks, radiation-absorbing skins, and AI-like neural networks to survive in the vacuum of space. Evolution not by biology alone, but by intelligence. And if this is what 3I Atlas is, then it wasn't just sent. It may have sent itself. It may be autonomous, capable of adapting its behavior based on environmental feedback, capable of choosing targets, destinations, or planetary systems to observe. Systems like ours. The implications, terrifying. We are no longer looking at a rock, or a probe, or even a ship. We are looking at something that could learn from us, evolve from us, or worse, assimilate what it observes. In recent months, theorists and astrophysicists have begun to notice another troubling pattern. Timing. The emission pulses, trajectory angles, and orbital alignments of 3I Atlas all point to a chilling possibility. Its presence here may be on schedule. According to a new model developed by independent astronomers, the object's path will bring it into proximity with the asteroid belt in just under 9 months. At that point, it is expected to alter trajectory in a maneuver that would require either immense gravitational interaction or propulsion. Some now speculate that 3 Atlas may be entering a final observational phase, a countdown to something, a rendezvous, a signal dispatch, a transformation. The structure of its repeating signals has even begun to change, suggesting phases. Some believe we are now in phase 3 of a 5-phase sequence, with the final phase coinciding with its alignment between Mars and Earth. What happens then? We don't know. But NASA's sudden silence, the military's rapid response, and James Webb's disappearing images all seem to suggest one thing. They know something is coming. Shortly after James Webb locked onto 3I Atlas for extended observation, something peculiar began to happen. Instruments across the deep space network started failing. At first, it was brushed off as solar interference, but what followed was unprecedented. Entire data streams from long-distance probes like New Horizons and even legacy systems like Voyager 2 went silent, in sync. Radio astronomers noted localized electromagnetic disturbances centered around the Webb observation windows. It was as though something, or someone, was reacting to the telescope's focused gaze. Engineers called it a coincidence. Analysts called it a cascade failure. But those watching closely began to ask a more chilling question. Was 3 Atlas aware it was being watched? And if it was, what did this electromagnetic suppression mean? Was it a form of defense? A method of cloaking itself? Or a warning? Because if it had the ability to interrupt communications from the outer solar system, then it might also have the capability to control what we can, or cannot, see. Traditional celestial objects follow tidy rules: ellipses, gravity assists, gradual decays. 3 Atlas didn't follow those rules. Leaked tracking logs show its path doing things no normal object should do: abrupt, non-ballistic shifts that look nothing like a comet's slow wander. Those changes weren't gradual drift. They were deliberate-looking course corrections. Caltech teams ran every gravitational simulation they could think of to reproduce the motion: perturbations, unseen masses, resonances, but none of the models matched the accuracy of the real trajectory. The adjustments behaved as if someone or something executed them on purpose. Then came the most damning detail. On July 4th, the object made a sharp angular turn that put it on a direct alignment with a particular star system. Luyten's star, a nearby red dwarf that's known to have at least one exoplanet in the habitable zone. Coincidence? Highly doubtful. If 3 Atlas originated in the Luyten system, if it aimed itself deliberately, if its course had been plotted decades beforehand, then this suggested it had visited the solar system before, and if it had done so once, it could do so again. A strange discovery followed when a small team of fringe biophysicists decoded the patterns buried in 3 Atlas's emissions. The ratios of frequencies within the signal weren't random noise. They matched fragments of genetic encoding, not generic chemical code, but structures compatible with human biology. Helix-turn helix motifs, the same sorts of patterns seen in gene regulation. Put plainly, the waveform contained what looked like biological logic elements. Was this mere pattern-seeking mathematical pareidolia? Or was the signal more than an address to us? A statement about us? Imagine if the object had knowledge of Earth life because it had observed it before, or even because it had a hand in seeding it. That possibility sent a shock through the astrobiology world. Before the community could publish or formally debate the findings, every involved lab received sudden federal legal pressure: cease and desist orders, gag notices. The official line was national security, worries about foreign satellite spoofing. But the people on the inside whispered a different truth. This wasn't a terrestrial or foreign actor. This was interstellar. The leak that followed contained a final, unnerving phrase repeated across encrypted lines in the James Webb observation logs: countdown initialized. 283 Earth days remaining. And the worst part? That line wasn't written by NASA. It was reconstructed from the waveform structure embedded in the infrared pulses sent by 3 Atlas. In other words, the countdown didn't originate with us. It was encoded in the object's emissions, a timetable coming from them, not from us. Researchers raced to figure out what the countdown could be pointing to: the next solar maximum, a moment when Earth lines up with 3I Atlas, or the time the object would pass closest to Mars. None of those options fit neatly until someone overlaid the countdown with old records for 2 earlier odd visitors, Oumuamua and Borisov. Suddenly, a pattern emerged. Every 7 years, a new anomalous object shows up, each one broadcasting more complicated signals, each one tracing a path that comes a little closer to Earth. A growing number of scientists now think 3I Atlas may be the 3rd phase of a deliberate long-term interstellar observation program. And the implication is terrifying. The countdown isn't counting down to something happening elsewhere. It's counting down to something coming here. One of the most controversial pieces from the James Webb leak wasn't the body itself, but the thing trailing it. At first, analysts assumed it was ordinary debris, bits of ice or dust blown off the main object. But when the images were enhanced, what appeared was far weirder. A perfectly straight shadow cutting across the infrared frame, shaped and aligned in a way no natural trailing cloud should be. Oddly, that shadow didn't change with sun angle or background radiation. It kept the same shape no matter the viewpoint or position. It looked as if the shadow weren't cast by sunlight at all, but being projected outward from the object itself. Some experts at the European Southern Observatory floated the possibility of a gravitational lensing quirk, but leaked internal Webb notes label the phenomenon much more bluntly. The object was described as a self-shading body. That phrase doesn't exist in the scientific literature. It's new jargon for something that suggests a body actively manipulates how light, and maybe space, behaves around it. If 3I Atlas can create a shadow independent of any star, it's doing something to the surrounding space that we don't yet have the physics to explain. Then the timeline of sightings got even stranger. Weeks after 3I Atlas slipped behind the Sun and vanished from direct view, Webb teams believed it had simply moved out of sight. But when analysts dug into the leftover data buried in the noise, they found a repeating signal at a frequency almost identical to the hydrogen line. The simplest, most universal radio fingerprint in the cosmos. The pulse recurred every 12 hours and 3 minutes, a regularity too exact to be dismissed as a random phenomenon, and hauntingly close to the period of certain behaviors in Earth's magnetosphere. After cross-checking old archives for weeks, investigators hit a cold shiver. Voyager 1 recorded that exact pattern back in 1996, while passing the heliopause. Back then, the blip was shrugged off as static. Re-examined now, under new eyes and with modern tools, that same signature lines up perfectly with what's coming from 3I Atlas today. Even more worrying, the signal is strengthening. It behaves like a reply, or like a homing beacon drawing nearer. The final leak from Webb included the infrared spectrogram of the object's core emissions. At first glance, the spectrogram looked like chaos, scattered heat spikes, bursts of high-frequency energy, and digital artifacts. But a creative software engineer on the image team tried something different. She transformed the messy data into polar coordinates and overlaid the points on stellar charts from the Gaia mission. The outcome was bone-chilling. The bursts weren't random. They lined up into a coherent star map, not of nearby stars, but of points in the Triangulum galaxy, roughly 2.73 million light-years away. Even more disturbing was the way the map closed. The final connections looped back to Earth, creating a perfect circuit. That pattern suggests not an aimless object, but one tracing a plotted route. A route that crosses galaxies to reach this system. 3I Atlas didn't look like a lost shard adrift in space. It looked like a planned arrival, mapped in exquisite detail. Taken together, the discoveries paint a single unnerving picture. These aren't isolated anomalies, but a repeating program of attention directed at our neighborhood. An object that can project its own shadow, a signal that matches an old Voyager blip and now grows stronger, and a star map spanning millions of light-years that loops back to Earth. All of it points toward intent. Whether 3I Atlas is an observer, a messenger, or something else entirely, the evidence suggests it's not merely passing through. It's coming for a reason, and that reason may be far closer and far more deliberate than anyone expected. Despite the overwhelming data, the official narrative remains. It's a comet. It's debris. Nothing to worry about. But deep within NASA, ESA, and the Webb Consortium, a silent panic brews. Sources within the SETI Institute have hinted at conversations no one is willing to record. Discussions of non-human cognition. A theory that 3I Atlas isn't a vessel or a fragment or even an object, but a thought. A non-biological intelligence encoded in structure, movement, radiation, and silence. It doesn't need propulsion because it manipulates gravitational fields. It doesn't speak because it communicates through patterns and positioning. It doesn't observe through optics. It uses entanglement to perceive systems across time. James Webb may not have discovered an alien ship. It may have discovered an alien mind. And it is staring back. So now we ask ourselves, what exactly did the James Webb Telescope see? Not a comet, not debris, not a random visitor from deep space. It saw something that shouldn't exist, something that shouldn't move, shouldn't emit signals, and definitely shouldn't be staring back. Because if 3I Atlas is truly more than just an object, if it is a signal, a mind, or a cosmic intelligence slowly spiraling toward Earth with intention, then James Webb didn't just capture a photo. It triggered a reaction. It became part of the pattern. It became the observed. And in the deepest silence of space, something responded. A countdown has begun. A map has been drawn. A signal is growing stronger. And NASA, they're not panicking because they don't understand. They're panicking because they finally do. The question is no longer what 3I Atlas is. It's why now? Why Earth? And what happens when the countdown finally hits 0? Because if James Webb was right, and all the data points to that chilling truth, then this object isn't just passing through. It's coming home.